a presentation, which I assume will be made available to you. But I'd like to thank you for listening, and we will be talking about this in a few minutes at the panel discussion. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Fatma. It is always learning to listen to your presentations and talk. Thank you very much. Now we go on to the next speaker, and he is Dikran Toroser. I apologize if there is any error in pronunciation. Dikran Toroser, who is a postdoc in biochemistry and genetics in Cambridge Lab in the United Kingdom, but currently he works in a pharmaceutical industry as a publication group lead. And today in this conference, he is going to talk on social media, enhanced content, and democratization of scientific and medical data access. So Dikran Toroser, please.
Great, thank you very much. Is my sound okay?
You're welcome.
Great, thank you for excellent pronunciation of my name. Thank you for this Congress, absolutely wonderful content. I really appreciate being part of it. So today what I'd like to do is talk about social media enhanced content and democratization of access to scientific and medical data. So just a quick disclaimer to keep all the lawyers happy. All opinions are my own and don't necessarily reflect those of my company or any organization I'm involved with. So what I'd like to do, and it's quite a topical item following Pippa's talk, I would like to cover some publication trends, especially as they have happened over the last few years in the COVID era. I would like to touch base on the volume and speed, which has become a real issue during the COVID era and before that, and touch a little bit on the challenge on how to maintain scientific rigor and maintain quality as we increase the speed and the volume, and really pressure some of the quality controls such as peer review, which are laborious and time consuming, but in terms of maintaining quality, they are some of the best tools we have. A little bit about entry points into medical data. COVID and also just the general trend has meant that data is available at various venues, and Mithu's excellent presentation also led to some thoughts on that. Changing demographic. No longer are patients entities that are having things done to them, but they're actually part of the treatment process. COVID is an example. They were doing their own tests and perhaps even some of their own treatment. Other therapeutic areas such as HIV are also going in that direction. And then I'd like to conclude with some thoughts around future state and what we can do as action items. Volume and speed in publications. We all know that the increase in publication volume is staggering, doubling every 9 years since World War II. There are in excess of a couple of million of articles published every year. And it's a hyper competitive environment. You know, I remember when I was a postdoc and a PhD student, you published or perished, and you didn't even get a PhD if you didn't publish. So that's maintained, and tenure is attained through publication, and it's a career item. So that will remain there for the foreseeable future. And the share of voice sentiment in companies, it's another issue where you actually get noticed by the people applying treatments by how many articles you send out. and the largest growth market is actually emerging markets. So volume and speed is going to be a constant. So what has happened over the last few years with the increase in volume is that both academia and industry have found ways to communicate that volume to the healthcare provider community and more broadly even. And what has happened is the demographic that is consuming this information, this very important information in medicine, is changing. You know, things are appearing in Twitter, things are appearing in preprint servers, as well as PubMed and in the peer-reviewed landscape. So the demographic that has access to those places is changing. Patients are becoming more active because they have a vested interest. You know, you could be a cancer patient where you need to know what the treatment is, and you can be a COVID patient, and so they know a lot nowadays. Positive sentiment around pharma is changing. Pharma during the last few years has provided tools that has put our life back on the right track, if you like. So we can go to school and to work because of some of the medications that came out of pharma. So how are we doing that? We're doing it in a number of ways. The enhanced content, as well as the COVID-related publications, has gone through the roof. People sitting at home, working at home, listening to things, they don't want to just read a dry paper. They are actually looking at authors that are recording items and recording videos, audios, and consuming that content. Social media, some companies are communicating their peer-reviewed items through social media. Preprints, they've been covered. You know, they've sped up. You saw the shortcut that Pippa drew out in her figure. They've sped up things. Things are ending in the public domain much faster, and you know, and journals are taking part because in some cases one could say they don't have any other choice. There are unintended consequences to this. Significant quality controls. There were retractions, and we will hear about the issues later on in the Congress. The speed and quality. You know, the faster you are, the quality can suffer. It doesn't mean that the items that are appearing fast in the public domain are all bad. It just means that we need to watch for quality controls. Plagiarism has increased, publication bias has increased. Social media is a place where the loudest gets heard. It doesn't necessarily depend on peer review or quality control. So we need to keep that in mind. And some of the other items there are also issued. And I've got there at the bottom something that we chatted about at this Congress, our first ACAC Congress last year, which was also great. The joint position statement by ISMAP Anwar and Anwar, which pointed to some of the issues. So as global companies, I work for a global company, gets decentralized, meaning that, you know, when you have a company of 80,000 employees, you can't control everything out in the regions. So some of the message regarding COVID and HIV, some of the publications are really specific to the region. So it is meant, you know, as the information about how medicine is done has ended up in various outlets, there is increased risk, there is increased disinformation. Social media is a very, very major tool, but in social media, you rub shoulders with people who don't necessarily say the right thing. They are not peer reviewed. So we need to watch who our friends are in social media, if you understand what I mean. What it does mean, though, as we consume content, we read as patients, as employees. In my case, we have access to more material. As we generate content, we work, we can generate more and more varied content, and it's all democratized. It is out there in the social media. It is out there in various venues, and depending on how much risk a company or an academic entity takes, it could actually mix with items that are not necessarily fully vetted. Excuse me, just trying to get to the next slide. Okay, so what can we do for risk reduction? So this is a call to action because we have a new normal here. COVID was a big catalyst. It was a change maker. And there is so much information, there's so much coming out our way regarding how things are done, and how things are done in the Asia Pacific region in particular is changing so rapidly. My recommendation is to make sure that we appear at venues like this, which is a melting point of guidelines. We'll hear a little bit about GPP later on, but there are a bunch of guidelines. So appearing at ACC, at ISMAP, and the other major organization is no longer a luxury. The volume is such that we need people like Pippa and Mitu and the rest of the eminent attendees at this Congress to condense it down to us, to show us where the area where our profession is going. So conclusion and future state. Access to information is happening at various entry points. We have a bunch of new content. It's no longer the publication that I sent out when I was a PhD student. It's no longer a black and white paper. It's actually a bunch of content. The speed has gone through the roof. It is landing in the public domain so fast because people are insisting on it, especially during periods where there is a need to communicate medical content. The demographic is changing. It's no longer just docs, but also additional stakeholders. But the sentiment for pharma is becoming more and more positive because we're able to provide tools. So thank you very much. That's the end of my talk, and I think my voice is also going. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dikran, Toroser, for your lucid presentation and to be on time. We are grateful. Thank you indeed. Now, may I request Charlie Meow to tell us about Tash Brown. Can you give a presentation of Tash Brown, Charlie?
No. He preferred to move to the last one today. So the 6th, because today they are all together for the session.
So he will go end of the session 3, isn't it?
Yes. So
yes. Okay. Will Charlie.